Welcome to the Military Report channel. By subscribing to our channel, you can be informed about detailed reports every time with the entry of the Russian armies into Ukraine, by air, land, and sea. The conflict broke out in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. The bombardment, which started on Friday morning, continues in a very intense way. Ukrainian President Zelensky confirmed that Russian armies are approaching Kiev from all directions. It seems that tonight will be very critical for Kiev. Yesterday, US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin reported that Russian troops are 32 kilometers from Kiev at around 4 a.m. On Saturday morning, Ukrainian President Zelensky and the Ukrainian army reported clashes with Russian troops, 25 kilometers. There were numerous reports from journalists on the ground in Ukraine that loud explosions were heard in Kiev early Friday morning. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed multiple reports of Russian missile strikes in a national speech. Early Friday morning, violent explosions were heard in Kiev early Friday morning. A Guardian reporter in the city confirmed that they heard a loud explosion. Southeast of Kiev, to high-rise residential buildings were seen burning after debris from a downed plane reportedly hit them. A multi-story building is on fire, and photos released by the Ukrainian State Emergency Department. Ukraine's Interior Ministry said it shot down a Russian plane over Kiev. Anton Gerodchenko, advisor to the Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, said that the Russian plane was shot down by the Ukrainian Air Force and crashed in the Darnit. According to U.S. officials, Russian forces were only a few kilometers from reaching Kiev. The US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told lawmakers that Russian mechanized forces entering Ukraine from Belarus about 20 miles from Kiev. The Associated Press reported, citing a familiar source, said in a phone call that took place around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. He said it was 32 kilometers. Tonight will be very difficult, and the enemy will use all their available forces to break the resistance of the Ukrainians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a speech to his country on Friday night, "The fate of Ukraine is now being decided." Zelensky advised, "We have to stand tall." As part of his midnight message, Zelensky told Ukrainians it was a difficult, but brave day. "We are fighting for our country on all. In the south, in the east, in the north, in many cities of our beautiful country." Zelensky went on to say that Ukraine is also fighting on the diplomatic front. "It's easier to count who are the world leaders I haven't spoken to yet," he said. Also, a few hours ago, the president of Ukraine confirmed that Russian forces are advancing towards Kiev from the north. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russian forces were approaching Kiev and advancing towards the capital from the north and east. Zelensky told Ukrainians in a video message at midnight on Friday, "Our main goal is to end this massacre. Enemy losses are heavy. Hundreds of soldiers who crossed our border and came to our lands today were murdered. Unfortunately, we are also suffering losses. Ukrainians are heroically resisting Russian. This aggression cannot be justified. So the invaders have to produce more absurd accusations to at least say something." Zelensky said, Russian forces captured an airbase just north of the city on Thursday, now close to the capital Kiev. They also run along 2 roads from the north and at least one from the east. Fierce clashes were reported south of. Ukrainian armed forces reported heavy fighting in the city of Vast-Silki, about 18 miles south of the country's capital Kiev. Heavy fighting is currently ongoing in the town of Vast-Silki in the Kiev region, where the invaders are trying to land a landing team. The armed forces said Russian forces are also advancing towards Kiev from both the north and. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video message Friday evening that Russian forces had attacked civil infrastructure, including kindergartens. "There is nothing that can explain why kindergartens and civilian infrastructure were bombed." Zelensky said, speaking to the Russian people in Russian, "What kind of war is this against? Ukrainian. Who are they? Are they neo-Nazis too? Or are they NATO soldiers posing a threat to Russia?" Zelensky. His remarks came after Russian President Vladimir Putin made false allegations about Ukrainians to the Security Council on Friday. Putin frequently repeats the baseless and false claim that the democratically elected Ukrainian government is that Nazi or fascist regime. Zelensky went on to say that many cities are under attack and urged Ukrainian citizens to be very please help each other, especially the elderly, the lonely, and those who need your support in case of any danger. Please go to the bunkers. The Ukrainian Border Guard Service said that the Ukrainian border post in the region was hit by a missile attack at 4:25 a.m. local time. The Ukrainian armed forces confirmed that additional weapons were brought to Kiev amid news of the explosion in the Ukrainian Guardian reporter Emma Graham Harrison confirmed that she heard a sound resembling a loud explosion, while Guardian's Luke Harding said the explosions took place in Kiev, noting that an explosion occurred between Paz and Jackie and Kharkiv SCA metro station. He added that Ukraine's operational command said that anti-aircraft defenses attacked Russian planes and drones. Ukraine's ambassador to Austria Oleksandr Sherbet said he heard 2 heavy explosions at around 4:25 a.m. A CNN team also reported hearing 2 large explosions in central Kiev and a third explosion in the distance. Agence France Press also issued a warning that loud explosions were heard in the center of Kiev. As dawn breaks in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, air raid sirens are sounding in the capital. Earlier reports circulated that Russia had launched a series of missile attacks on the city of just under 3 million, while residents reported waking up to the sound of the. When news broke that Russian tanks were approaching the city from all directions, many civilians sought safety in bomb shelters and subway stations. Ukraine's central bank has banned operations involving the currencies of both countries, as well as payments to entities in Russia and Belarus. The regulator said on Friday. Reuters reported amid the chaos in Kiev, members of the Russian community gathered in cities around the world to show their opposition to the Russian invasion of. Here, a protester burned his Russian passport during a demonstration near Andrei Sakharov Square in Studio City, California on Thursday evening in southeastern Kiev. There are reports that 2 residential buildings have burned down after being struck by debris from a downed plane. A multi-story building is on fire in photos released by the Ukrainian State Emergency Department. The fire came after unconfirmed reports from a Ukrainian Interior Ministry official who previously said a Russian plane had been shot down in Kyiv's Darnitsky district. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that he had met with a number of world leaders and agreed on more assistance during the invasion of Russia. Zelensky said he had met specifically with President Biden, as well as with French, German, and Dutch leaders. I agreed on more help, more support, significant support. I thank all the leaders and especially President Biden. He said. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he continued to meet with foreign leaders until the early hours of Saturday morning. Local time. Zelensky shared the update on his official Twitter account, providing details of a meeting he had with French President Emmanuel Macron. I must say that Ukraine is a true Francis with us in our most difficult moments. It was supported to cut off Russia's connection with SWIFT and to provide defensive weapons as well as personal sanctions against Putin. Mayor Sila France was read. There has been long debate among Western governments whether Russia should be excluded from SWIFT, a system that enables international financial payments. Zelensky said that he also met with Polish President Andrea, Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel from the EU. Announced the details of the second tranche of sanctions against Russia. French President Emmanuel Macron said Russian President Vladimir Putin was being hypocritical in talks with him, discussing the details of the Minsk agreements on the phone. As he prepared to invade Ukraine, the United Nations has announced that it has immediately allocated $20 million to scale up UN humanitarian operations in Ukraine. Following the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a national speech confirming that 137 civilian and military personnel have been killed so far in Russia's invasion of his country. Zelensky added that, although Russia describes itself as the number 1 target, his country was left alone to fight Russia and that he and his family remained in Ukraine. The Ukrainian president also declared a full 90-day military mobilization against the Russian occupation. The Russians also boldly protest the attacks on Ukraine, often with grave consequences. The White House press secretary Jen Psaki said the United States was ready to accept Ukrainian refugees fleeing Ukraine. The Ukrainian government is seeking underground volunteers from the country's hacker to help protect critical infrastructure and conduct cyber espionage missions against Russian troops, according to 2 people involved in the project who spoke to Reuters news agency. Thanks for watching.